Public at 5 o'clock Sunday here in the auditorium. Please come on out and join them for that production and support them. And then they'll be going off to Pearland Dawson on Monday to compete in the UIL. And I want to thank Ms. Nealon and the crew from the Ball High. Give them a hand for the Ball High Theater Department for helping us out here today. All right, so now we'll go into it. We hope to get as many questions in and have you out here shortly before 9 p.m. tonight, so you can at least catch the final hour of The Voice or whatever else you may be watching here tonight. So we'll go ahead and start with our candidates with their 30-second opening statement, which will include why it is they're running. And first up, Mr. Raymond Guzman. Mr. Guzman, you have the mic. You can close to yourself there, and you have 30 seconds, sir.
Many of y'all don't know me. My name is Raymond Guzman. There's so much to say about my city. I can't express everything in a time level. Number one, my problem is the water department. Number two is public works. Number three is why we're having low water pressure. I could go on and on. There's more time, and I will debate. I want you, the people, to please respond. This is your home as well as mine. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Bafford, Don Massard, 30 seconds.
I'm Don Mafford. I'm your candidate for mayor. I'm running for mayor because of the different problems and challenges that this city has. We have a problem on city council where we can't have consensus. We don't have consensus. And without consensus, you can't move the city forward. I hope my background and leadership will provide that quality to bring the consensus to council so that we can achieve the goals and objectives. Thank you.
And Elizabeth, 30 seconds.
Thank you. Galvestonians can accomplish extraordinary things when we pull together, and I would like to lead that. My goals for the city are to fix up our neighborhoods, including our streets and parks, improve our business corridors, Broadway, Seawall, Harborside, and make substantial progress toward a flood protection system. My service will be professional, efficient, transparent, and respectful.
Thank you, ma'am. And finally, in his opening statement, Jim Yarbrough. It's not working. Go ahead and get the other one handed down. Thank you.
I'm Jim Yarbrough, and I want to be your mayor. You know, we're going to talk about a lot of important topics tonight, but this race boils down to one question in my mind. Which one of us do you trust to bring back civility, professionalism, a decorum, not only to city council, but to this city? Which one of us do you trust to bring closure to Hurricane Ike by completing the FEMA PWs and the CDBG infrastructure program? Which one of the ones up here do you trust and have confidence in to bring our infrastructure to become a reality? Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, candidates, we'll start off the same order as we did our opening statements. For our first question, you'll have 1 minute to respond. Again, if you watch the tree up there, as the green light is on, you keep talking. The yellow light means you have 30 seconds left, and the red light means you need to stop. All right, Mr. Guzman, you'll have first 1 minute to respond. What will your approach be as mayor to public housing in Galveston? 1 minute, sir.
I can't answer that. There's so much confusion, and the government's got his hand into everything. It's a shame to say that. My concern here is more about the basics. I live here. I drive here. I'm telling you, we got problems. Miss Elizabeth's been on the throne 6 years. She's heard many times the water problems. Deaf ears have fallen. Even I complain. We'll look into it. We'll see it. We'll call you. Don't call us. You can dress it any way you want, and I can continue. Thank you.
Before we go any further, one of the conditions, as we had earlier, if you make a direct accusation against one of the others on the panel, that candidate can have, if he or she wishes, a 20-second response. Since he
a rebut, please.
Would you like to have 20 seconds to answer?
Well, if I understood Mr. Guzman correctly, he was complimenting me for having brought up water issues consistently over the last 6 years. And I appreciate that very much. I have made that a focus, and I've worked hard to keep water rates down.
Time, ma'am. Thank you.
I want to rebut to that.
No. Mr. Guzman. Mr. Guzman. If I can, let's keep the decorum here. We stick to the issues of the questions asked, sir. If we would, please. The rules
can
are outlined
challenge her
ahead of time. I
anytime,
know
any
this is
place.
not a, Mr. Guzman, it is not a free-for-all. I know it would be lively for the audience if you would
All
stick
right.
to the questions asked. All right? Thank you. Mr. Mafford, my apologies to you, sir. Again, the question is, what would your approach be to public housing on Galveston Island? 1 minute, sir.
At this point in time, there's a lot of forces in play that I'm not too sure whether this council is going to have a significant impact on what's going on. If you were asking me about what my feeling is about the current plan of public housing, I can say that I'm much more in favor of vouchers rather than a concentration of poverty. So I'm concerned about how the coalition agreement was formulated. I'm concerned about the fact that the city was not involved in that agreement. So I have a lot of questions personally about that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Beatty, 1 minute for your response, please, ma'am.
Well, I would continue to press for a regional approach to public housing. That's what's in the best interest of the residents of public housing and also is in conformity with federal rules. The mixed income housing that's been proposed here is not going to succeed long term because there just isn't sufficient demand for the market rate units. And one of the things we're going to need is legal advice about what the GLO can and cannot do. We never got that. Our city attorney told us recently that we could obtain qualified legal advice for less than $50,000, and believe it or not, the council voted not to get it. This council collapsed when the GLO rattled its saber, but we never investigated the extent to which the GLO was making real threats. Much of the funding the GLO threatened to withhold has been released, and so it may be that we have more control.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Yarborough, same question to you. 1 minute for your answer, please, ma'am. Sir.
Well, obviously, it's in the court system, so there's limited amount that we can do at this time until we hear what their ruling is. I am an advocate of bringing the city back to the table. I don't think advocates and others ought to be negotiating on behalf of the city. We need to, again, be at the table to manage it. I'm also a believer that it's probably not the perfect plan. Is it better than what we had? You bet. I'm a firm believer that the community really has spent a whole lot of time on this very divisive issue. And we're talking 200 and some odd public housing units. If 200 and some odd public housing units kill this town, let's put a sign on the causeway right now to close up and get out of here. So, we got to wait for the courts, but we need to be at the table to negotiate it and manage this environment. That's been one of the things that's lacking is the city has, in some regards, been on the sidelines watching and not being in the mix of the fray.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Mafford, you'll get this next question first. After Hurricane Ida hit, the council raised the tax rate, but there was a promise made to lower it when the tax base recovered. Figures show that for the most part, the tax base in Galveston has recovered. If elected mayor, what type of plan would you push as far as the tax rate is concerned? 1 minute, please, Mr. Mafford.
I've seen the numbers. I chair the City Finance Committee. On 2 different occasions, the City Finance Committee has recommended to City Council that the tax rate be lowered to meet the commitment to the taxpayers after Ike, and the tax was raised. The money's there. I've seen it. There's no question about dollars. It's a question about commitment to the taxpayers, and if I were mayor, I certainly would see that the city met that commitment.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Beaton, 1 minute for your response, please, ma'am.
Well, the city certainly has the resources now to lower the tax rate if that's what the citizens want. We have the fund balance to do it, and we have one fabulous opportunity right now, which is to close tax increment reinvestment zone 11, which is Palisade Palms. The zone was created so that it would put property tax dollars on our rolls. And it was specified that when the project was complete, those dollars would hit our rolls. Well, the project is complete, and it's generating $800,000 a year in city property taxes, but this council is reluctant to put that into the general fund. They want to continue to give it to the developer. That's over 2 cents of property tax reduction right there. Really what we need to do is present all the options to the residents and see if they want a tax reduction or if they want something else.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Yarborough, 1 minute for your response.
Yes, thank you. Lesson number one, council shouldn't make commitments they can't keep. So we need to learn that if we happen to be on council. But a city council did make an implied commitment that we would do that, and we need to honor that. Whether it's done all in one fell swoop, as Mr. Maffridge has alluded to, the money's there. I have not been on the position to know that, or whether you do it over a phased-in period of time. But again, it's a fine balance of whether you want services or whether you want lower taxes. You know, I wasn't real happy with the services I got in 2008 from the city, and so I don't know if I want to go back to that level of service. And so, you know, we can do some budgetary things. We can do zero-based budget. We can continue to find ways to make city government more efficient, bring in technology to try to do it with less people. But again, I would be more in favor of doing tax reductions over a 2 or 3 year period as opposed to going from where we are now all the way back to pre-Ike levels.
Mr. Guzman, same question to you. 1 minute for your response, please, sir.
If the money is there, that's what I hear, and how we're going to use it, personally, in my opinion, I don't know all the details. I'm not going to play charade games here. I'm getting my feet wet. Do you understand? I can't answer every question. My heart, I listen to my heart, and I listen to my God in heaven. And if you people doubt me for that, so be it. If the money is there, I personally would work with the future council, sincere. Let's get back to the basis, the streets. There's so many potholes, problems. My whole area, the water pressure's been low. No one up the water department could answer that. That's what I'm trying to say to Miss Elizabeth. She hears the
Mr. Guzman,
people.
if we can stay with the question.
Well, that's the way I am.
I understand. Yes,
I'm not
I understand
knocking
that.
her. I'm giving you, just like a politician, I'm battling for this position. I'm entitled to that.
Yes, sir, but you're also entitled
Thank
to
you.
follow the rules that we were laid out.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm
right.
sorry I slipped. Forgive me, people. I'm human, just like you.
All right, time's up, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Ms. Beaton, you'll get this question first. 1 minute for your response. What are you looking for in the hiring of the next city manager for Galveston? And what are your views on interim city manager Brian Maxwell staying as the permanent replacement? And how much input or influence should the mayor have in making that decision?
Well, the mayor will have no more influence on making that decision than the other 6 council members because that's the form of government we have. Mr. Maxwell should be entitled to apply for the position just as anyone else would be. The city needs an experienced city manager, someone with a deep background in finance, public works, infrastructure. So we're going to have to pay more to make sure we get someone of that caliber because we need a strong manager. The world being what it is, council members will attempt to fill a void if we don't have that strong manager defining the boundaries of the position. And so I believe that's what we're going to need to work for.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Yarborough, same question to you. 1 minute for your response, please.
Thank you. I'm a firm believer in the council manager form of government. It's probably the number one priority we have at the city at the present time is to find the replacement of city manager. That's probably the biggest problem we've had in this city in the last several years is, quote, lack of management or inadequate management. So looking for strong personality, someone who has experience, someone who has people skills. You know, this is a tough job. Everybody comes in with a different opinion. You've got 7 different personalities on council. So, you got to have someone who has the experience. Obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing someone who has the ability of implementing public works projects, not just talking about them. And so, as far as the mayor having any additional influence more than any other council person, absolutely not. It's a team of 7, and the mayor will be one of those 7. And as, with respect to Mr. Maxwell, he certainly has the right to put his resume in the pile of applicants and let the best person win, he or she.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Guzman, same question to you. Would you like me to repeat the question, sir? All right. The question is, what are you looking for in the hiring of the next city manager for Galveston, and what are your views on Brian Maxwell, the interim city manager, staying on as the permanent replacement, and how much input and influence should the mayor have in the hiring of that position?
This gentleman at this moment is just a temporary. He has a right to put an application. It's what he's qualified. This is an important position. He leads the city, and I think that the council and the mayor, they have the right to choose and go through the application. This is a job that the citizens are looking. But when the man himself does a mistake, he must let the government handle it and work with him in every fashion. I'm doing my best to answer everything.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Maffridge, same question to you, sir.
When I was elected to council back in '96, we were faced with a very similar problem of having to hire a city manager. The city manager that we hired lasted for 13 some odd years. You know, I have a little different perspective on hiring a strong city manager. I think you need a qualified city manager. But I think the guidance is, and that's the reason why council and mayor are elected, is to provide a roadmap for the city manager and make sure that he implements that roadmap. So I think it's a leadership question at the city council that we really haven't had for these past number of years, and that's part of the problem. As far as Maxwell is concerned, certainly he's able or would be welcome to put in an application.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, next question up. How would you handle, if elected, conflicts of interest? Will you discuss and or vote on matters that involve companies or institutions that you or your family have either a financial stake or employed by? Mr. Yarbrough, 1 minute for your response, please, sir.
No, I would not participate in discussion nor vote. If there was a issue that came before City Council and there was deemed that I had a conflict of interest, I certainly would disclose that. And it's important not only not to vote, but certainly to leave the room, let a healthy discussion take place, schedule it in such a way where any of us who have a conflict of interest can leave and not participate or influence decisions that would be made.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Guzman.
I agree in that with him in that opinion.
You agree?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Maffridge, 1 minute for your response, please, sir.
I'm running based on an independent platform. I'm not beholden to anybody. And that's what I bring to the table. I don't sit on boards that are going to present conflicts of interest to me. I'm a businessman. I own my own business. But if there was a conflict, I certainly would abstain and not participate. But I will say that I am independent, and I will be your independent mayor.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Beaton, 1 minute for your response, please, ma'am.
Well, of course, I would not participate or vote on any matter in which I had a conflict of interest. And I would make every effort to prevent anything arising that would present a conflict of interest while I served on council. I think that's very important. My husband had the opportunity to seek some legal representation for the city while I was on council, and he decided not even to seek it, nor to attempt to represent the Wharves Board or the Park Board. There would have been no actual conflict of interest, but he preferred to take the higher the higher road and not even attempt to obtain that business. And I'm proud of that.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. And we'll go back up to the end of the table here, Mr. Guzman. We'll get to answer this next one first. Do you support the proposed Ike Dike? If so, what is the best strategy for encouraging the federal government to fund it, and what role should the city play in any type of funding mechanism for that proposal? Mr. Guzman, 1 minute for your response.
I'm for it, and I think same way Louisiana had their problems, the Corps engineer. Yes, I support it, and of course, majority of the money will come from the government, of course, and that money is yours, we the people. The government have forgot us, in my opinion. They're spending our money at their expense. I know, I work, I sweat for my little money. So I think beyond that, I am for it, but I think as a city, we should keep an eye and watch over the government, because our government today is so wishy-washy. With this administration, it's pathetic in my opinion.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Matheridge, 1 minute for your response, please, sir.
For sure, I support the Ike Dike. The level of participation by the city is critical. I think that's where it really begins. And at all levels of government, going to the county, state, and federal level, I think the initiative should begin with the city of Galveston. But we need to encourage all of the other different governmental levels above the city to participate as well.
Thank you, sir. Speak, 1 minute.
Yes, I'm a firm supporter of flood surge protection for the city of Galveston. And unfortunately, our state leaders and congressional representatives didn't fight to get us the money after Ike that Sandy generated and that Katrina generated for their regions. The first step really for us to get that is a feasibility study by the Corps, and that's going to cost about $9 million. So the city needs to begin lobbying our federal representatives to allocate that funding for us so that we can get that feasibility study started. It's going to require local and state sponsors for half of the $8 million cost. So we need to also work with the state to get that funding. That's going to require a major lobbying push by the city of Galveston, state and federal.
Time. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Yarborough, 1 minute for your response.
Yes, I certainly support the Ike Dike or a derivative of it once the details are worked out. It starts, we've had our congressman in the audience here for most of the night, Randy Weber. If Galveston isn't proactive and take a stance for it, why, if Galveston doesn't take the lead in, why would somebody else? We've got to make sure we maintain this as a regional flood protection levee system. Quite honestly, Galveston doesn't have the financial strength or the political strength to do it by ourselves. We need Harris County, we need the city of Houston, we need the surrounding counties to march as a group on the upper Texas coast to go to the state level and the federal level for funding. There's a 6-county consortium already in play that we can tap into to begin the process and let them help us lobby for the money. But yes, long term, you get the Ike Dike or the surge protection system in place, and all of a sudden the conversation on flood insurance rates changed dramatically. So it'll be a great economic boon for us as well.
Thank you, sir. All right, candidates, as I mentioned earlier, there would be one question about vision, your vision for the island. This is that time. You'll actually have 2 minutes to respond to this. Mr. Matheridge, you'll have the first response to this. And as I said, 2 minutes. So what is your vision for Galveston, and how would you go about implementing it? 2 minutes, please, sir.
I'm a businessman, so my vision is going to come from a business background and basis. I think Galveston needs to, first of all, eliminate a lot of the restrictions and overlays and ordinances that are in place that have been detrimental to economic development for the city of Galveston. There's an ongoing process now, land development regulations, that could, if the end result is such, change the whole climate of economic development for the city of Galveston. I think as a chamber entity or any one in the community that's interested in seeing Galveston move forward, they need to pay attention to the outcome of the land development regulation process, which is currently at the planning commission level and will eventually go to the city council. My vision is that the city works and coordinates with UTMB. They have a huge development program going over there. We need to work to bring their employees back to the city of Galveston as residents. We have a port that's ongoing. We're going to have bridges built to Pelican Island. We have the Panama Canal expansion. Galveston needs to be in play on that. I think Galveston has a bright future, but I think the mayor and council should be very much in tune and to these things that are ongoing and certainly impact the future.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Beaton, same question to you. 2 minutes.
Well, I would like to see Galveston begin to challenge Austin as the destination for the young people of Texas. Thank you. Austin is getting crowded. Much of what Austin has to offer is a memory of what Austin used to be, but Galveston really has it. We're a college town. We have extensive natural resources, history and character, and I see Galveston being a destination for young people, where young people want to live here. Our neighborhoods, our historic neighborhoods, and our core neighborhoods that are in the historic districts, revitalized, our parks being state-of-the-art interactive parks with programming in them, and our economy being diverse based on the technological abilities of the young people who come here. So we have a broader economy. And I also see us being a very diverse city as we are now. I think that's one of our strengths, is that we have people from every walk of life, income range, and background, and I think that will be an asset to our city for years to come. So I really see us as a vibrant destination for young people.
Thank you, ma'am.
Close your eyes for a minute and just envision a Galveston where city government works effectively and efficiently with the people. Close your eyes for a minute. You come down Broadway, you get to 59th Street, and you've got brick pavers on 59th Street like Tillman put up on 25th and Seawall Boulevard. We put those in our major intersections. You see a city that's thriving with a population going north of 60,000. You see the north side of Galveston from 25th to 53rd, Broadway to Post Office, with quality residential neighborhoods. Folks, that's the last area behind the seawall where we can get enough land mass to build at an affordable cost. Single lots around town cost more money than if you can pool them together. Close your eyes and see some of our empty lots in our neighborhoods now being filled with new residential construction. I see no parking on the Seawall Boulevard on the south side. That's our biggest asset. I see moving those cars to being parked in the downtown empty lots and parking garages. Cross-sell downtown with tourists who are coming to the beach. I see using a rubber tire trolley in place of the fixed rail trolley to transport tourists. Ideally, we have tourists park one time when they come to Galveston, and they can navigate this entire city on a rubber tire trolley system that looks in keeping with the history. You know, I see a more bicycle-friendly, a more walkable community. I see our infrastructure being replenished and up to speed. You know, I see us sitting behind a surge protection levee like we just talked about. Galveston's best days are ahead of us. We need to elect somebody who has a vision for Galveston, not a memory of Galveston. And so, you know, this is not going to happen with one person. It's going to take the entire community to get behind these things. And I look forward to working with you.
And Mr. Guzman. 2 minutes to explain your vision for Galveston if you're elected mayor.
I lived here all my life. I grew here. I'm not going nowhere.
If you can get the microphone a little closer to you, sir.
Oh,
There you go.
my vision, why I'm running, not to be a mockery to my name, not for people to attack me and don't even know me and already fingering me out without justification. It's immoral wrong where I come from. I believe in a lot of good things. But the bottom line in my world, without God, and publicly say this, I don't care what you think, God will lead me, period. And I will do what I think is right. And if you use your own judgment, just like I have to. You could clap all you want. You could say all you want. It could be pretty voices, pretty letters. Everything looks good on paper. But when you're rock bottom, when in reality, talk is always cheap. I know it's hard. But you, the people, got to get out there and support whoever you believe. Don't just do your number, vote, and say, oh, I ain't worrying about nothing else. When he falls, back him up. Show your true colors. I don't have to explain it. You know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next question on this meeting. You'll have this first. We're back to our 1 minute answers now. And it's about seawall parking and the fee charged there. Is the program as it is designed now working? Are the funds going to the proper priorities? And what changes, if any, would you make if elected? Ms. Beaton, 1 minute.
Well, no, I can't say that the program is working as intended because we're not generating enough income to pay our operating costs and provide the amenities that our residents want. We have better uses for our police officers than writing tickets on the seawall. And those services can be performed at a lower rate by clerical employees rather than union employees. So that's the first change we need to make.
Thank you, Dan. Mr. Yarbrough, 1 minute.
Thank you. You know, it's like anything else. This is the first time through the system. We need to give it this full year to really analyze it. Yes, there needs to be some changes to it. Certainly a lower cost to implement the compliance with the parking. You know, you talk about changes. One of the things I'd like to look at and see if we shouldn't maybe have no charge or no enforcement from October through March. It's a minimal time of the year. Locals use the beaches more and for walking, etc. in that time of the year. But that's one of the things that we need to do, not only on seawall parking, but in general, is just to manage whatever program we have. That's been a deficiency that the city has had. As far as amenities, yes, I think we all voted for, those who voted for seawall parking wanted amenities. They wanted these things. That can be paid for out of this fee that's charged. It can be paid out of the general fund. It can be paid out of the convention center trickle down. There's a number of things that we can do to ensure that the amenities that were implied to the public actually get put into play.
Thank you. Mr. Guzman. Would you like me to repeat the question, sir?
What?
It's about seawall parking fees.
Oh.
Is the program working, and is it delivering on the promises made to the voters? And what changes would you make, if any?
Well, right now, the way I feel, if I was the mayor, my concern, again and again and again, I'm going to ring this old rotten bell. The water department needs their act
Mr.
clean.
Again, we need to stick
The
with
public
question and
works. I'm not here to worry about charging people on the beaches. I think that we ought to leave that alone for now. My concern is getting to what I'm here for. I understand all these other problems. You keep pushing and pushing. We're adding more. We're biting more than what we could chew, the way I look at it. What do you people want? You can't have your cookie and cake and eat it all at the same time. Life doesn't work that way. What world y'all living in? I know the world I'm living in, reality. Every day I get out of bed, I thank my God. I'm alive. I have my heart beating. He controls me. You can laugh and mock me and do what you think is right. But when you go home at the end of the day, you think
Mr. Guzman,
what you
time.
are.
Mr. Maffridge, 1 minute, please, sir.
A seawall parking is not going as promised. There was a projection of $1.5 million income from seawall parking. On the finance committee, we see the figures. That is not happening. We haven't gone through the first year, but what I see of it, I see that during the tourist season, there is enough money. We do make more income than we have expenses. So I think we ought to take a look at the off season and maybe reduce those expenses. And also I think we need to take a look at the Park Board of Trustees. I think they can do a much better job at operating seawall parking than the city can.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up, and Mr. Yarbrough, you'll have this question first, 1 minute to respond. A lot of folks have different designs on the Convention Center surplus fund. Some believe and contend it's being spent the wrong way on small bites. Where could that money do the most good? What would your priorities be for the spending of those funds?
Yes, TJ. The Convention Center surplus fund is like the IDC fund and other funds. Sometimes we rush to spend money because we have it. Sometimes it's better to hold your money back, let it build up, where then you can do something that's more meaningful and significant and noticeable in the community. So it's not just the Convention Center surplus funds that gets diced up into so many small pieces that we rarely know where it was spent. I think you could say that about several of the funds. I'm a believer that those funds ought to be used on a pay-as-you-go basis, and we ought to build up enough reserves to help and supplement the seawall parking money, use it for the local match for some of the grants to build these restrooms, showers, rest spots. You know, again, if we had no parking on the seawall, boy, you could move all the vehicular, the Surreys and the bicycles into the parking lane, and then you could really create some nice amenities along the seawall and break that concrete up.
Mr. Guzman? Would you like me to repeat the question again? All right,
Please.
no problem. This is about the Convention Center surplus fund. A lot of folks have different plans for how that money should be spent. How do you believe it should be spent, and what would your priorities be if elected?
First, I would look into it. I'm not updated like these people are, but it don't hurt to get your feet wet. I have to study it and work with my fellow colleagues. Always you should do that, no matter what position you're in. I'm not going to deny and play these charade games. I'm just like a new kid in the block. I deserve a chance, just like you would tell your kids the same thing. Dreams, opportunities. We're all reaching for the stars, aren't we? Who wrote that book, Only Young People? What about us, the older people? I can go on. Please understand me. Have a heart, at least.
Mr. Maffridge, 1 minute, please, sir.
I think the convention surplus could be used for many things, one of which would be advertising the city of Galveston to bring more conventions into the city. It could be used to add amenities to the seawall. There's multiple uses for it. So right now it's being used to pay for policemen that were right now providing law enforcement on the seawall. Whether that's appropriate or not is a good question, but that's a current use of the seawall funds, or the convention funds.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Beaton, 1 minute for your answer.
Well, these are hot tax dollars, hotel occupancy tax dollars, and so they have to be spent in some way that puts heads in beds. You know, I think I would consider focusing those on improvements to Broadway. including the cemetery. Those would be eligible expenditures. Broadway is so shabby, it doesn't present a positive impression of our city when people enter. We have many uses on Broadway that are non-conforming uses that were grandfathered decades ago. And we could offer to those property owners that we would help them retire their chain link fences and their roof signs, etc., to try to make Broadway more appealing. And that would be if we did a match where they contributed and we contributed, we could really make a difference in the way Broadway looks. I think that would be an excellent use of this fund.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, next question up, Mr. Guzman, you'll get this first. Sorry, no, I'm sorry. It should be Jim last one. I'm sorry, yes, it's back to you, Mr. Guzman. No, it's right. I'm sorry, Don. Yeah, confused myself getting ahead here. Sorry about that. All right, Mr. Guzman, 1 minute to respond. What's the best approach to getting the new bridges built to Pelican Island?
What's the best way to build
What's the
it?
best approach?
Oh, best approach? Well, I'm not an architect. I'm not a Corps engineer. I would. Here we go again.
Just to clarify, it's more about the funding mechanism, not the
Well,
design of it, sir.
Where would the funding come from? I'm not. I'm not into this. I'm just a new kid in town. It's a shame to say that, so the people are gonna boo me for speaking honestly about it. If where would the revenues come from? I don't think the city is suffering as it is, so we probably have to work with the government or the state, whatever, but put two and two together and work together. There's certain questions I can answer straight, but there's certain questions I'll be a fool and make a mockery and be a liar. I'd rather be straight up. I don't have all the answers. I'm looking for answers myself, just like y'all.
Fair enough. Mr. Maffridge, 1 minute for your response, please, sir.
Well, there are two bridges that are being contemplated. One is a vehicular bridge, and the other is a railroad bridge going to Pelican Island. They're two separate bridges. Most probably would be going down the same right-of-way. The question is, are they going to run parallel in development by way of funding, or the funding sources are going to be different? And the question then would be, which bridge would be built first, the vehicular or the rail bridge? From what I understand, the vehicular bridge is going to have a better opportunity to get funding, whereas a rail bridge is going to take a little longer time. Whatever happens, if in fact the vehicular bridge gets the funding, then I think we ought to build it at that point in time that the funding is available.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Beaton, 1 minute for your response.
Well, the vehicle bridge to Pelican Island is a critical need for the city, and I think it's an inevitability that it's going to get built. The navigation district is responsible for that bridge. They are qualified to apply for federal funds to replace the bridge, and that bridge has to get done before the railroad bridge can get done. So I have confidence that the navigation district is going to get the vehicular bridge replaced. And there is a rail district that is working on the railroad bridge, and hopefully they'll be able to work together, and if the rail bridge is a economically viable project, then we'll have two bridges to Pelican Island.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Yarborough, 1 minute.
You know, these two bridges kind of epitomize what could be done in Galveston. That's great partnerships. Obviously, the vehicle bridge is a responsibility of the navigation district, but the city needs to be shoulder to shoulder with them, working through the details. We've got the rail district, which is a county-driven entity. It's a great opportunity to put the olive branch out back to the county to reestablish those relationships. Obviously, a ton of federal money is going to have to come through the system. There are programs where you have no local match. Those are rare. There is probably going to be a local match required. Again, we have to work as a partnership and as a group, both public and private sector, to figure out how we get that local match. It's more than just a bridge to Pelican, which would be a great thing. But if you get the bridge to Pelican, are there any railroad tracks over on Pelican that they can use? Do they have right-of-way? Does the private sector have right-of-way to go install tracks that can get them around Pelican Island?
Time, sir.
A lot of decisions have to be made.
All right. Next question up, Mr. Maffridge, you'll get this first and 1 minute to respond. What steps do you think the city needs to make to improve its infrastructure, including roads and water service? 1 minute to respond, please, sir.
Well, there's no question that there's a great need to repair the streets of the city of Galveston. The first thing we need to do is to get our house in order down at City Hall, because if we can't do that, we can't move forward with the various projects that we have. This has been one of the problems that we currently have at City Hall. This is one of the reasons why I'm running for mayor. At this point in time, again, we have to get a city manager in place, bring him up to a level where he has an understanding of what the needs are of the city of Galveston. And hopefully, from that point forward, we can make some improvements in the streets and infrastructure.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Beaton.
Probably the most important thing is not to waste money, so that we actually have the money to improve our streets and our water system and our sewer system, which is challenging. As I mentioned before, we could close Palisade Palms TERS zone and get $800,000 a year just like that. You'd think that would be a no-brainer and very simple, and yet your council's not prepared to do that. So we have the mechanisms to improve our streets. We did pass a charter change that specifies that we're going to gradually devote 8% of our general fund budget to street improvements, and that's going to happen. We have the IDC funds that we spend on infrastructure, so we've made improvements to the streets using those funds as well. We just have to keep plugging away.
Mr. Yarbrough, 1 minute for you.
Folks, that's what this election's all about. Which one of us do you think can get that job done? The money's there. We finished the FEMA PWs. We finished the CDBG round 1 and 2 infrastructure projects. A lot of your streets, your water, your sewer, your drainage are going to be improved by those projects. The problem is there's not a lack of desire to get it done at City Hall. There's a lack of an ability to get it done. They don't have the systems in place. We need to change the way we procure our services. We don't need to have one project going through the pipeline at a time, get it finished, start another one. You need to have 4 or 5 of them. You have a conveyor system. You don't have enough staff to management. You got to have contract management brought in and part of that project cost to get it done. We don't have the staff to do more than one project at a time, and we have a whole lot more than one project at a time to get done. So there's some fundamental changes that need to happen at City Hall in our systems. Once you get that done, these projects will get done.
Mr. Guzman. Question you've been wanting all night. How would you go, if elected, improving the infrastructure, including streets and water service?
Well, they say the money is there. If it's been there, the problem must be up City Hall. Delays, paperwork, one after another. But yet, I drive, you drive, bumps here, curves, many problems. All I know, if I'm elected, I will study it, not just talk. But the first thing you got to do is work with the people. This council, to me, at this moment, is not productive. They have fallen in the ears of the deaf people as they cry. My goal is clean up the water department. Public work needs to act together. I'm sorry to say that. These are important idols. No matter what they say, I know what I say, and I mean what I say. And you notice when you get a water bill, there's a tax on it. And you notice...
Time, sir. All right. Next question up. And we'll have 2 more questions, folks, before your closing statements. I hope that's okay. What are the needs of the downtown area, and how would you support them as far as economic development is concerned, as well as infrastructure improvements? And also, what can be done to encourage the growth of Pelican Island and helping out Texas A&M Galveston as well as part of that? 1 minute, please. And we go up this one, Ms. Beaton. You have that first. 1 minute.
Well, I represent downtown. I've represented downtown for 2 years, and I've been working with downtown to market downtown using the income from the parking meters. And we've been successful in putting wayfinding signage there, and we're working on a new project now. Ultimately, downtown is probably going to need a management district so that they can attract the kinds of retail establishments that will draw people to downtown. The Kempner Fund has donated a code enforcement officer exclusively for downtown, and I'm grateful to them for that, and I'd like to thank them. And I think that will bring some improvements to downtown as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. You know, our history is one of our biggest assets in this community, and certainly downtown reflects that history. I can't think of a community across the country that I've ever read about in a magazine that had economic development, revival, and urban renewal, and all the things that have happened across the coast without them investing in downtown. Downtown has to flourish. Downtown is more than the Strand. You know, we need to make sure that downtown is the Strand all the way back through Post Office and Church and Winnie and really all the way back to Broadway. You know, we need to make sure that the city supports and finds a way to fund, certainly if the Kempners are helping, you know, it needs to be clean. It needs to be prideful. We've got a lot of empty parking lots there that we might be able to use for some of the seawall parking that will help cross-sell our downtown opportunities. You know, we need to, as a community, we do pretty good on a...
Time. Thank you very much. Mr. Guzman.
I'm for developing downtown. Who isn't? I understand downtown. I go to there. I don't shop much there, but George Mitchell built downtown. He spent a lot of his money, but he also had government grants to back him up. You got to think twice how these rich people mingle with your money at your expense. They got all the lawyers. They know everything. But here we go again. What about the residential? I live on District 2. I mean, my people are crying now. What about the problems I keep speaking? You know, we're fading away to another, you know, I'm sorry. I believe in taking care of the regular people, the everyday people. My God, do not forget them. They have a voice too. When they cry to God for help, God don't ignore them. And we're getting close to a holiday, Easter. Think twice what Jesus done.
Mr. Mathridge, same question to you. 1 minute to respond, please, sir.
I forgot what I was going to say.
You need a minute to gather your thoughts, sir?
just a minute. No, the downtown certainly is something that is critical to Galveston and its economic base. We need to encourage more cruise ships coming into the city of Galveston. They certainly impact the downtown businesses. We need to continue the marketing effort from the parking proceeds. I think there's $100,000 a year that's allocated to marketing specifically for downtown. We need to interface again with UTMB, try to encourage their employees to live in the historical area to create a purchasing power for the downtown area.
Thank you, sir. All right, folks, our last question of the night. So after this, we'll have your closing statements. This one has been referenced a couple of times as we've talked with some of your answers tonight. So we'd like to see how you would go about it. How would you, if elected, would go about to better build consensus and ease the rancor that we sometimes see on city council? Mr. Yarbrough, you're first. 1 minute to answer.
Thank you. That's an area that I have some experience in. If y'all recall, when I became county judge 16 years ago, Commissioner's Court was somewhat dysfunctional with the Judge Holbrook and Wayne Johnson days. So the first thing you do is you set the tone with working on something you have in common. We've got things that we have in common. Let's work on those things. As the mayor, you can accomplish those things by working together. You can move in some of the things that you have in disagreement over time. You know, you start with the attitude of the mayor in the meetings. It's very important that we bring civility when people come to our meetings, that they're welcome, they're treated with respect. We've got to create trust. One of the biggest problems we have in this city is creating trust with the people of this town. Our city government and our city won't thrive until the people of Galveston believe that we're doing the best we can do.
Time, sir.
And I look forward to doing that. That's a very important part.
Mr. Guzman. Would you like me to repeat the question, sir?
Please.
No problem. All right.
I forgot. I'm sorry.
It's all right. You're fine, sir. How would you, if elected, go about ending a lot of the rancor on city council and building a consensus on council?
Arrange city council. How to work with the people of city council. Make good contact with them, work with them, just like you would on any job you're in. You got to give a little, and you got to take a little. You know, communication is very important. You might not always appeal to everything, but that's the way it is. You know, you compromise. Listen, the word compromise. I'm going to say it. You compromise. In the eyes of God, there is no compromise. Either you're with him or you're against him. As simple as that. I believe in compromising. I want a chance. You people must think I'm a joke up here. I don't care what you think. My heart is here. I'm here publicly. I'm shaky. I have God and my angel behind me to protect me.
Time, sir.
How many believe in angels? Raise their hand.
Time, sir.
I guess I'm the only fool here.
No, sir. Good time. Mr. Maffridge, 1 minute, please, sir.
I chair many committees over the years. In the committees that I chair, we've worked together without rancor. We've worked together to achieve goals and objectives. And this would be the same thing that we would do at City Hall is for consensus, is to establish goals and objectives that we all agree on, and then move these goals and objectives forward. You do this by the budgeting process. You do this by working with staff. But this is something that Galveston needs and something that I look forward, if elected, to provide that leadership to the city.
And Ms. Beaton.
Well, a lot of what you might think of as rancor on this current city council is a result of the some council members not wanting to let others speak at all, or terminating the meeting or the discussion as soon as there's a disagreement, and that will promote rancor. You're never going to get a healthy council that's going to be in consensus all the time. If it appears that there's consensus all the time, then decisions are being made behind closed doors before they get into council, and votes are being traded. But if the mayor sets the tone of treating all council members with respect and inviting a full airing of all views, then you'll have a healthy city council. And you won't agree all the time, but the citizens need to hear all sides so that they can be fully informed. So that will be healthy.
Time. All right. Thank y'all. Again, give a hand again to our candidates here, if you would. We've now come to your closing statements. We will go in the reverse order of how we started. Mr. Yarborough will start, then Ms. Beaton, Mr. Maffridge, And Mr. Guzman, you get the final word. And 90 seconds, Mr. Yarbrough.
Thank you all for coming. It was a good night. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot from both this session as well as the prior session. As I said in my opening statement, this election is about one thing. Which one of us do you trust, do you have confidence in, that can bring civility back to our city hall? If you're happy, if you're content with the way things are going now, if you're happy with the snapshot of where Galveston is today, I'm not your guy. Mr. Maffridge and Ms. Beaton, by their own admission, have had their fingerprints and their influence on every decision made at City Hall in the last 6 years. If you're content with that, then push their button for your candidate of choice. We can do better. We should do better. We should expect better. I've always been a believer you very rarely exceed your own expectations. If you think we can do better, I'm your guy. I can't do it by myself. I need your support, but more importantly, I need your vote. And if we're fortunate enough to get election, again, the mayor and the council can't do it by ourselves. You know, we've got to build community consensus around our goals and objectives. Consensus is not unanimous, but consensus is taking every point of view and molding a decision that's good for our community. Thank you for being here tonight.
Are we going to get a little extra time to
Yeah,
respond to those?
I was about to, as soon as clapping, and we'll give each of you 20 seconds extra. You, Mr. Maffridge, there.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you, Daily News, Chamber of Commerce, Galveston Independent School District for sponsoring the forum. And thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate your commitment to the city. I don't know anyone who has gone to bat for the residents of Galveston more consistently than I have over the past 6 years. And during the past 2 years, that has been particularly challenging. But I am uniquely qualified to lead the city based on my legal background, my experience at City Hall, and sitting on city finance committees, including the Finance Committee, the Redevelopment Authority, the Industrial Development Corporation, and the Planning Commission, and my courage and my integrity. All of those things contribute to my being the best candidate for mayor of Galveston. You know, I realize that I look serious up here. I'm not the most polished speaker. I've been spending my recent years in public service without compensation. I'm not a banker. I'm not a business person. But I bring smarts, pragmatism, and common sense to everything I do, and uncommon commitment. And not always, but sometimes, and I think this is one of those times, the best man for the job is a woman.
Mr. Maffridge, you as well also get additional 20 seconds on top there.
I believe Galvestonians want to elect a mayor who will get our house in order. This means delivering reliable city services through efficient management of tax dollars and resources. The next mayor and council will be hiring a new city manager. It will be important to find a qualified person that will stay in Galveston for an extended period of time. Unfortunately, this process will delay the focus of dealing with the many current problems of the city. I am committed to unnecessary city rules and regulations that restrict responsible economic development. I am committed to making city government efficient, effective, and affordable. I am committed to keeping the city credibility by honoring commitments made to the taxpayers after Hurricane Ike by reducing city taxes. I am committed to seeing that neighborhoods in the business community respectfully coexist. I'm committed to bringing leadership and consensus to City Council in order to move the city forward by accomplishing goals and objectives established jointly by Mayor and Council. I am your go-to mayor candidate, and with your support, your vote, we can get it done.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Guzman, 90 seconds. You have the final word of the night. Well, actually, I do, but I'll give you 90 seconds. The final word of the candidate.
It was stuck on his foot.
Oh, okay. All right. It's not going to go. It is taped down there, sir. There you go.
I'm grateful to be here, and there's so much to say. To be a leader, it's an honor to be a leader, but the most important, when you lead, you need the backing of the people. There's so many answers that need to be answered. When Yarbrough said, who do we trust? I mean, I don't know how to think that. I don't know how to take that. I know who I trust. It's my God in heaven, period. He guides me. He's my destiny. And if I'm elected without God, I can't be nothing. And you take it from there. Use your imagination as you wish. Thank you for being here, and thank you, the people. And may God be with you till we meet again.
Thank you, candidates. Give them another round of applause. A couple of housekeeping notes. First is Emery Higgerson here in the audience still. Emery Higgerson. If you are here, please see me up at the stage afterwards. Again, thanks to the Galveston Independent School District. Larry, thank you so much. Larry Nichols, the superintendent. First of all, Bill, you okay up there? I just want to make sure. Bill Nealon, the head of the theater department, that was the I hope you're okay. We've had too many falls happen here in these forums tonight. I don't want any people walk out here injured tonight. Thanks to Bill and his crew. Again, 5 o'clock Sunday here, free showing of Mice and Men. And before they head off, I don't know if the concession stand's still open, but get that on your way out. Thanks again to all those at GISD. And a big thanks to our staff at the Galveston County Daily News here helping us out with this as well today. Y'all get home safely. Thank you.